do we want to go into... Yeah. We still don't know if the thing's gonna. It's like we were talking about. We still don't know if it's gonna have an 8-megapixel camera. We'll find out. It's. I guess we should go into this. We're gonna try and keep this show short because there's a lot of slot. And this is something we're likely going to go into more detail either on PC versus Mac or the next iWorld, assuming we can get people together and go over that. But what have you kept up any with the Apple versus Samsung thing?
Yeah, I have done. I mean, the last thing that I heard was that Samsung have already now responded, and basically now it's gone into one of those stalemate things where they're both suing each other pretty much.
Yeah, and that's pretty much the only way that could go. But I mean, do you remember the 80s?
Well, I was born in the late 80s, so I think I was a bit...
Okay. For those of you who don't remember the 80s, and I'm sure when Bit comes back, he's going to want to rehash on this. So you'll get... I am absolutely certain of that. But if you set your Wayback Machine to the 1980s, once upon a time, there was this company called Apple. They were making things. And there was this company called Microsoft that supplied whole tons of software solutions to this company called Apple to make their product better. And then Microsoft decided, because Apple didn't want to do a business model that Microsoft liked, Microsoft was going to, in part, get into competition with Apple. But only on a software basis, not a hardware basis. They didn't want to play that game. And Apple sued the evil Microsoft and said, "You're giving us products that make our product better. Large parts of what our customers want is entirely dependent on you supplying us, but we hate you because you're trying to do a different business model. So shut up, don't compete with us, don't ask us to improve ourselves. Nah, I own it even though I don't." And Microsoft and Apple argued over this. And eventually the end result was Microsoft said, "Fine, you don't want to do business with us? We'll go somewhere else. And we won't give you anything." And Apple said, "Fine then, we don't need that stuff our customers want anyways." Blah, 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 blah.
I mean, well, then again, I mean, Apple have hardly been gracious about not treading on other companies' toes. Because, I mean, even their name trod on a company's toes, if anyone knows about that story.
Well, no, yeah, I know. Well, and supposedly the whole Apple thing came because Steve Jobs spent the summer working in an orchard. He just came back, he goes, "I've seen the orchard, it shall be called Apple." "I have commanded it, it shall be." But suing Samsung here is very much in line with that. And I actually talked about this with some other people over the weekend. I need to ask them like what site they want links to. It's like their stuff's called Tech Bytes, but they got a weird domain name, so I don't know where they want things linked to. But Samsung makes a lot of Apple stuff. You know, to name some of the things Samsung supplies Apple with: parts of processors, monitors, and other things. Samsung is one of the key hardware partners for Apple. Like, a lot of the parts in Apple products are Samsung technology. And Samsung's perfectly happy to just sell most of their inventory to Apple and then sell the rest at a higher markup to deal with Apple buying bulks of it.
Yeah, well, from what I've from that standpoint, initially the suspicions were that even though they're under the same company name before Samsung responded, was that one half of Samsung didn't really, because they were sort of separate entities as it were under the same name, so one half didn't really care what the other half was doing, so that the hardware would still continue, and the other half would just try to contest Apple.
Yeah, and that's the logic a lot of people have been making. That, you know, like the absurdity of what's going on between Apple and Samsung right now is you go to an Apple complex, and in conference room A, you have Apple suing Samsung, saying how they don't want to do business with Samsung. Samsung's evil. We hate you, Samsung. We have to put you out of business. And in conference room B, you have Samsung lawyers talking to Apple lawyers, going, "And how can we meet your supply demands today?" It's like. Oh, don't you love big business?
I mean, surely by now, with all of these things, the way they end in a stalemate, they must realise they don't work. Nobody wins out of it as far as the companies go.
Oh no, and what they're suing over here is just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Basically, they're suing over that they think Samsung's UI for Android looks too much like iOS, and I'm like, really? Really? It's like. Your widget looks like a widget. I sue you!
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I mean, let's put it this way, you know, yeah, they do look similar, but the thing is, you know, managing to win that, you're going to have a hard job if you have any chance at all, so what on earth are you even bothering?
Well, no, and Apple sued HTC over this, but that was a very different situation. HTC basically owned no patents. Which means Apple, you know, the position in Apple suing HTC was this. Apple's going to go to court and go, Your Honor, Majesty, whatever the hell you choose to call them. So, we have all of these pieces of paper that says we own it. Whether or not the patent office should have ever approved them is irrelevant. We have all of these pieces of paper that says we own it. And HTC would have been there and go, we have no pieces of paper because we didn't think anybody could own that. The patent office shouldn't have said yes. It's the patent office's fault. Those pieces of paper should have never been stamped. And it's like, that's not a strong position before the law. In the case of Samsung, though, Apple's going to go, we have all these pieces of paper, and Samsung's going to go, oh, we have all the same pieces of paper. They said we own it. So they'll go in there, and the patents will cancel each other out, and we'll all get, the end user would win in that suit, because the courts would go, irrelevant patent, irrelevant patent, irrelevant patent, irrelevant patent, irrelevant patent, irrelevant patent. And both of these companies get to spend millions of dollars to lose their investment. Win-win for the end user. It's like...
The fact is, you know, just because they're similar, you know what I mean? If they're similar, you have to question, with all the way that these contests have ended up in a stalemate, ain't they? You know, what on earth makes they win this one? So that's my question to it.
Well, I'll let you in a little secret. I don't know how it works in UK patent law, but 9 times out of 10 in US patent law, the person with the most money wins. And Apple has more capital to play with than Samsung. So Samsung can spend $1 million and Apple can spend $3 million. And if they happen to win this case, which is highly unlikely but possible, one of 2 things are going to come out of this. Actually 3 things. Scenario 1, which is the one I'm rooting for, neither one of them settle. They go to court, and all of these patents get proved invalid. So we have precedents on the books that proves the patent office is not doing its job, and you actually have a court ruling you can hold up in regards to all of this shit and go, but Your Honor, Judge so-and-so said this stuff's worthless.
That ain't gonna happen.
Yeah. Well, then I can hope. Scenario 2. To make Apple go the hell away and protect a lucrative business relationship, and because Apple needs Samsung products, they're going to settle. Basically, they'll each eat a little bit of crow, but they'll do it privately so nobody knows how much, in the desire to protect future business relations. And that's probably the more likely outcome. You know, they'll all get on their huff and their tizzy, and then when the media dies down about this in a month or 2, they'll settle, because the reality is continuing this suit will cost both companies billions of dollars. Scenario 3, even more unlikely than scenario 1, because Apple has more money to throw at this. They're able to hoodwink a judge. You know, they do something like transfer it to that Texas jurisdiction that goes, oh yes, 2 plus 2 equals 4. You're right. That's perfectly patentable. Anybody who's using number 4 owes this guy $5.
I mean, the thing is that, you know, I mean, so do you think that outcome 2 or 3 is more unlikely? Because from what I've seen of these lawsuits, outcome 2 is usually been the way that they've gone.
Yeah, in order of most likely to least likely, I'm going to go with 2. They'll settle. That's most likely. Second most likely is the scenario I'm talking about, that if neither one of them settle and see common sense, we'll have a case of most mutually assured destruction, in which case the end user wins at these guys' cost. And scenario 3 is Apple actually manages to prove an invalid case. I would have said that's impossible, but in the last 5-10 years of patent law, there have literally been people who have been suing people with patents that are along the lines of, well, you see, there's the idea of 2 plus 2 equals 4, and therefore a number is a patentable. And anybody who's using a number infringes on my patent. And they've been suing people and winning. Which is insane.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've heard, patent law in the US is a mess.
Okay. Well, no, and the reality is, one of the cases everybody would probably know is the guy that invented the windshield wiper. He basically showed his thing to, I forget if it was Chevy or Ford. I want to say Ford, but I can't. I don't quote me on that, because I'll be slandering the wrong car company. One of the car companies basically stole his design for the windshield wiper and violated his patent blatantly. And they did it because at the time it cost millions of dollars to even get your foot in the day in the patent court. Fortunately for him, they streamlined the patent process so that basically you could push a patent thing through in less than 2 years, so that you could actually get your case heard while your patent was still valid and it was still easy to prove whether there had or had not been damages. That's actually, unfortunately, what started the current wave of just patent suit stuff, because at that point it became very profitable to buy patents and then sue anybody who even remotely could have infringed on them, because some of them would cash off, and it became cost effective to make a business out of that. And that's the world we now live on. This wouldn't be a problem if the patent office was doing its due diligence, which is actually simplifying patents to their most basic and making sure that they're patenting a specific or unique thing or use of something. But the reality is they're not doing that anymore. They're basically putting the burden of due diligence on the applier, who basically goes, yes, I invented the sun because I think I invented the sun. And the patent office goes, okay, if you say so, Apollo.
I mean, what gets you, like, you know, sure, you think that they go looking into the history and that to make sure that none of those have already been applied for goodness sake.
Well, we say that like it's an obvious thing, but the reality is when you get into technology, especially into software patents, at their most basic, every computer on the planet works the same. You know, it's just computing ones and zeros. Just like it's dealing in binary, it's dealing in bits. There's only so many functions. They're all using the same programming languages. They're all doing the same stuff. So at the end of the day, one of the real reasons this stuff gets pushed through is because if I had to guess, I'd guess no patent office in the U.S. has somebody reviewing these patent applications that's actually qualified to review them. Which is why people are able to get a lot of these patents pushed through. The patent office doesn't understand the patent they're reviewing, and they're basically going, okay, you've provided me 3 references here that states how this is new and different. I don't understand what the hell I'm stamping, but if you say so, it is honestly what I think the case is. Because if you go read some of these patents, I mean, I'm not an idiot. You know, I'm not an idiot when it comes to technology. I'm not an expert either. I have a hard time following some of these. I talk with people who have been dealing with the computer industry for 40 plus years. People who did things like translate the code coming out of a box. They took the binary coming out of it, they intercepted it, they translated it back into the language to figure out what they needed to patch, sent the patch back through the system in binary to basically they hacked a patch in. They did this with their supervisor's permission, but people of this level of expertise read some of these patent things and they're like, I'm lost. Like, I can't put my finger on what they're actually patenting here.
I mean, surely as well. I mean, the thing that I would say from my standpoint is that if you're not sure of something, then you don't go and give it the green light. I mean,
Well, but see, then that creates the exact opposite problem. Then nothing becomes patentable. That's a win-win for the end user. But if somebody actually has done true innovation, they deserve the right to be able to protect it and have the right to distribute it how they see fit. Because
what are they picking the wrong people for to look them over? Then that's the next problem.
Well, no, that's the main problem here. But to give you an idea of the type of people who would be qualified to really review some of these more complex applications, you're talking about people who earn 6 figures plus a year. And a lowly little patent clerk, as good as they make, is never going to be paid that on the taxpayers' dollars. You know, it's the same thing, you know, with a lot of these jobs. It's with some of these most key important jobs, especially if they're being done on the federal level, the people who are really qualified for them are never going to go do that job, because unless they're just a philanthropical person who goes, I'm going to donate 40 years of my life to making the world a better place for shit pay. You know, it ain't going to happen. I'm sorry. That's a utopian world right there. I'm doing my bit for society as a whole because I can. I can be filthy fucking rich, but no, I'm going to do my part for society and die a pauper.
Yeah, that you'd be waiting a million years plus if ever for that to happen, I reckon. Dear idea.
Yeah. But you know, going back to like what you're saying, you know, if they don't understand it, they shouldn't be stamping it. I mean, well, and honestly, con men have been able to pull over a lot of bamboozles on the patent office. Like, they basically put things that don't work, but the patent office issues them patents because they're able to convince them they work. They do like hoodwinking. And then they use the patent. It's like, well, see, they think it works. So then they go get, that's the foundation for their scam right there. It's like,
dear oh dear. That is just there definitely is a serious problem, and in one way or another, it does need sorting out because, you know, how much longer is this kind of thing going to go on for?
Basically, until we streamline the patent system and the patent clerks and make it actually do its job. To patent something, it should have to be unique. It should have to be a true invention or innovation. Anything short of that, yes, I figured out a new way to add 2 and 2. I have 2 keys and 2 keys. Is that patentable? You know what? I should do that. I should patent the number 4. I could get filthy rich.
Your idea.